If you've spent any time at all looking at the headlines lately, or maybe just looked at your last grocery bill, there's this feeling you just can't escape. It feels like things are fundamentally shaking. The foundations we all thought were solid, whether that's, financial, institutional, or even deeply personal, they just seem to be straining under this immense weight.
It's a pervasive feeling.
It really is. And for this deep dive, we've taken on a powerful and, frankly, a pretty unusual set of sources. We've been analyzing excerpts from a widely followed devotional podcast.
Right, and we should be absolutely clear about our mission here for you, the learner. We are not diving into faith practice.
Not at all. We're performing a purely sociological and psychological analysis. We're using the source material as a lens to distill these universal human insights. How do diverse communities across continents find stability when everything else fails?
When systems fail, expectations fail, personal strengths fail.
Okay, let's unpack this. Our goal is to really extract the mechanics of resilience. What are the specific, enduring coping strategies that emerge when, as the source says, what once seemed strong can no longer hold?
And that framing is so crucial. We're treating this source as a kind of global report on human behavior under stress. It takes this ancient scriptural framework and applies it directly to the defining modern anxiety, the systemic loss of trust and stability. Our focus is laser sharp. We are identifying the consistent patterns of response when institutions, economies, or even our own personal resilience just buckles.
So the core question we're trying to answer is, what actionable psychological insights does this material offer about finding an anchor when, uncertainty seems to be the only constant?
Exactly.
So to define this whole condition of systemic failure, the source brings in a really powerful reference. It uses the imagery of Isaiah 46, verse 2.
And the scene it describes is just one of utter collapse.
Right. It says they stoop, they bow down together, they cannot save the burden, but themselves go into captivity. It's this picture of a system, a structure, failing not just to uphold its promise, but actually falling down under the very weight it was meant to carry.
And the analysis in the source here is, it's critical. It interprets this imagery not just as some historical event, but as a kind of predictive principle for any system.
A principle, yeah.
The argument is really profound. It says that any structure, any mechanism or strength that can't carry life, so anything not fundamentally designed for endurance and sustainability, will eventually collapse under its own burden.
And that burden could be anything: debt, political cynicism,
or just too many unmet expectations. Yeah.
So when we look at this through a modern lens, what does the source say are the key structures that are bowing down together right now?
Well, it points to four interlocking areas of contemporary fragility, and it shows how this failure impacts both the macro and the micro level at the same time. So first, you see governments struggling. Political division, unmanageable debts, we see it everywhere. Second, economies, shaking volatility, inflation, these stark wealth gaps.
And then it gets more personal, right? It moves into the relational and institutional failures, which, those can be even more painful because they hit so much closer to home.
Exactly. The third is institutions losing trust. Whether that's in media, education, organized structures, it creates this void of reliable authority.
And the
fourth, families stretched beyond capacity, just struggling with financial pressure, emotional isolation, the sheer pace of modern life.
It's jarring to see governments struggling listed right next to families stretched beyond capacity. It's like the source is treating failure on a macro and micro scale as the same kind of event.
It is. It suggests that the collapse of a global market can feel exactly like the personal collapse of a relationship or an expectation.
Because the instability feels the same.
Absolutely. The sociological reality is that the feeling, that psychological state, it transcends borders. It's shared. And the source leans into this. It prompts this reflective moment, asking you, the listener, what did I depend on that no longer feels stable?
And what disappointed me this year?
Yeah, and the power of those questions is that they validate this shared experience of uncertainty all over the world, from Wall Street to a remote village.
The insight there is that the psychological pain is the same, whether the source of that instability is a global downturn or a personal disappointment. So it forces us to ask, if the systems are failing globally, how does the human operating system adapt?
And that is the perfect transition.
Yeah.
This is where we go from defining the collapse to analyzing the response.
Yeah.
The source doesn't just leave us in the abstract. It It provides a global reality section.
Right.
It offers these distinct geographical case studies that highlight how external pressure creates different but equally powerful internal coping strategies. And this is where the comparison becomes so valuable.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we're not just getting anecdotes, we're synthesizing the relationship between the nature of the pressure and the resulting mechanism of resilience. So let me look at how the source frames these experiences.
Okay, let's start in Africa. Here, the primary nature of the collapse is resource and economic. We're talking about rapidly rising costs, food insecurity, severely limited access to necessities. The system has failed to provide basic material support.
So in that kind of environment, how does the source describe the human response? What do people do?
The resilience mechanism is a pivot to relational capital and internal conviction. When material resources run out, the society leans into faith in community.
Into each other.
Into each other, exactly. The source notes that for many, hope becomes a daily decision. And this isn't passive waiting. It's an active, cognitive framing exercise.
I like that. Hope is a daily decision.
It is. When external resources are scarce, your internal mental process has to work that much harder to fight off learned helplessness. Mothers pray, fathers encourage, children absorb this resilience early. Relational solidarity replaces institutional support.
That dive into the psychology of it is fascinating. It's an ongoing internal action that says, I may not control the markets, but I control my outlook.
Precisely. Now let's contrast that active economic struggle with the Caribbean case study. Here, the external pressure is physical, it's environmental,
Storms.
catastrophic storms, visible destruction of infrastructure, and all the long-term emotional trauma that comes with it.
Right.
The collapse is sudden, it's violent, and it's highly visible.
So the response has to be fundamentally different when you're facing that long, slow process of rebuilding after just immediate devastation.
It is. The resilience mechanism described here is centered on patience and inner conviction. You hear families testify, we lost things, but not our faith. The response is less about that daily reframing against scarcity and more about long-term endurance against visible loss. Rebuilding takes years, so patience becomes the sort of necessary currency of hope. It requires deep emotional regulation to stop despair from becoming chronic trauma.
That makes perfect sense. The external stability is gone, so the focus shifts inward to non-collapsible resources. In this case, patience for the long haul.
And then we move to the Middle East. The pressure there is defined as conflict affected. It demands this profound, prolonged endurance under nonstop threat. The environment is just one of constant existential pressure.
In that kind of situation where the external threat is it's omnipresent, the coping strategy has to be extremely guarded, right?
Yeah.
Or internalized.
Absolutely. The response is one of quiet practice and this careful guarding of hope. The source notes that prayer becomes breath, which illustrates how this deep, sustained pressure forces core survival mechanisms to become completely internalized.
The external world is just too dangerous to trust.
Exactly. So this shift ensures the locus of control moves entirely inward. It maintains that critical conviction that the collapse, the conflict, does not have the final word on your future or your identity. It's resilience distilled to its purest form.
Okay, so we've seen economic failure leading to community reliance, physical destruction leading to patience, and conflict leading to this deep internalization. How do Europe and the Americas fit into this pattern? The issues are comparatively different.
They are. In many developed nations, the failure presents as economic instability coupled with a deep emotional strain. We're talking job insecurity, career burnout, rising anxiety, and crippling loneliness.
So the external failure is often the failure of these hyper-individualized systems to support social health.
Precisely. So the resilience mechanism isn't necessarily physical or relational in the same way. It's about finding an anchor point. In the examples from the source, internal conviction or faith becomes that non-negotiable anchor when the market, the social safety nets, the expectation of rapid success are all uncertain.
So you quell the anxiety by shifting your dependence away from those fragile systems.
You have to. You shift it away from the things that are currently failing to carry their burden.
The overarching pattern then, across all four regions, is incredibly consistent. The moment external strength money, infrastructure, political peace, the moment it fails, human beings pivot.
They do.
The response is always a shift from dependence on fragile external things toward reliance on internal or shared relational strength.
It's the consistent human pattern of seeking an enduring core. The system failure forces this deeper reliance on the enduring human qualities of, shared burden, hope, and internal stability. It moves the center of gravity inward.
Which brings us directly to the devotional teaching section of the source. This provides the psychological blueprint for translating this global observation into personal stability. This part focuses on the crucial contrast between what fails, the systems, the material strengths that can't endure, and the idea of who remains, the concept of a constant, non-collapsible entity or truth.
And this contrast is where the psychological release really begins. The source offers these simple, profound conclusions that are just so valuable for managing mental health in an age of crisis. The core concepts are designed to separate your self-worth from external fragility.
What fails does not define you.
And what collapses does not end you.
Can you help us understand why that separation is so hard for us? Why do we automatically internalize systemic failure?
Well, because the ego seeks control. And in modern life, we're often programmed to equate our worth and our security with the success of external structures, our career, our portfolio, our family security.
Sure.
So when those structures stoop, the ego feels like it has failed to be all-powerful. This practice, the source suggests, is designed to break that link, to stop you from carrying the weight the system itself couldn't bear.
And that's where the source suggests a very specific, actionable mental practice for dealing with this burden, the moment of release and trust.
It's a critical cognitive tool. It encourages you, the listener, to visualize the burden, the anxiety, the disappointment, the structural failure, and to consciously articulate two powerful statements.
And those articulations are, I release what I cannot fix.
And I trust what I cannot control. This mental exercise provides immediate relief from anxiety by explicitly defining the boundaries of your personal responsibility. It empowers you to relinquish the impossible task of fixing global economies or institutions, and instead focus that energy on your own internal, non-collapsible anchor.
It effectively prevents you from entering that captivity from the opening scripture, that emotional and mental imprisonment that comes from trying to hold up a structure that has already failed. It's a mechanism for preserving your psychological resources.
Exactly. This separation is paramount for long-term health in a world just saturated with information about crises we can't directly influence. By identifying the burden and consciously releasing it, you stop spending finite personal strength on infinite systemic problems.
So let's synthesize the source's explicit summary points now. Let's translate them into our deep dive takeaways about resilience. We've seen the global evidence, we've analyzed the psychological framework.
The conclusions are powerful and distilled. First, collapse is not the end of your story, and that addresses the macro failure.
Oh.
Second, failure does not cancel your future. This addresses the personal ego's fear of internalizing it all.
And that third point, it links directly back to those global case studies we just examined, doesn't it?
It does. Third, hope grows strongest in uncertain ground. This is the synthesis of the experiences in Africa, the Middle East, the Caribbean. Uncertainty isn't a destroyer of hope, it's the necessary catalyst for true, enduring resilience to emerge.
It forces the internal pivot.
It forces the pivot.
So what does this all mean? Our deep dive into this source material seems to clarify that structural failure isn't an anomaly. It's a global, shared human experience. And the universal, consistent response is this shift of dependence from fragile external systems, the things that stoop and bow to an inner or shared relational strength.
It means that the instability you're feeling today is universal, but so is the human capacity to adapt and to anchor. And this knowledge allows you to proactively choose your anchor, whether it's your community, your patience, your internal conviction, rather than waiting passively for external forces to shake you into realizing where your true strength lies.
The source leaves us with a really provocative thought, building on this idea that even when systems fail, you're still being carried forward. If the ultimate lesson from these global examples is that weakness isn't abandonment, then the most important question for you, the listener, is not what you lost when strength failed.
But what specific enduring resilience you gained because you were forced to make hope a daily decision?
A profound thought.
Think about the enduring nature of that lesson. The failure of the structure might have been the necessary catalyst for you to finally discover the strength of your own non-collapsible core.
A profound realization about the true nature of stability. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into resilience and response. We encourage you to keep exploring this knowledge and where your own enduring core truly lies.
Until next time.